Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode, and Ian, I'm not kidding here, number 666. Releasing April 9 in Australian cinemas is Undertone, a supernatural horror that stars Nina Kiri as Evie, the host of a popular paranormal podcast who becomes haunted by terrifying recordings mysteriously sent her way. A creepy blend of supernatural thriller and religious horror that delves into themes of faith, guilt, and the arrogant evocation of evil. Undertone also marks the feature film directorial debut of Ian Tuason, who I'm glad to say joins me now on the podcast. Ian, how are you?
I'm great. That's amazing. 666. Did you plan that?
Nope, nope, no sir. I did
Yeah,
not.
me
It just
neither. I
happened to
don't
just fall
plan
that
these
way.
things either, but they keep happening.
Yeah, I read that about some of these things. Some things with numbers that come up. I know something about your mum's birth date being in October. You have a tattoo about that, and it came up once in a time. I guess that time came up
Yeah, it
once in
was
the
a
production of the film.
yeah, it was a I have 1037 tattooed on me because my mom was born October 10,
Mm,
1937.
hmm
And it was my mom would always buy me flowers for every occasion, so I was the only guy in my university graduation. Right now I saw Ma on your cup when you drank from
hmm
it.
Yeah, yeah. See, there we go.
And then anyway, so that's and my crew surprised me with flowers. No one does that except for my mom because I'm a guy. But
Mm.
yeah, so my in my university graduation, I was on stage with flowers, and every time birthdays and all that. And then yeah, they surprised me with flowers, and then I looked at my phone and it was 10:37, so I showed it to them. And then they all went, "Whoa." And not just because of that, but because it was happening for the entire production. So that was kind of like the cherry on top.
Speaking of numbers in regards to this film, I was listening to a podcast that you did. I forget what it was, but you were talking about how you kind of timed patterns of horror creeps or horror scares from different movies, and you kind of took a formula and kind of added it to your own movie. You talked about you had five or six movies that kind of that kind of creeped you out or scared you. You saw the patterns in that film. You did a little formula. You added it to your film, which I found to be incredibly interesting. How do you implement that kind of stuff in your own movie? Is that in the script? Is that on set? Is that in post? Where do you kind of implement the formula that you got and then put it in your movie? Because I'm really curious about that.
Oh, everything's from the script phase. So it's yeah, it's like the Bible. It is written, and so it will be done.
Hmm.
My screenplay had highlights for creeps, which was I think green, and then a scare, and that's something that could either be a jump scare or just a reveal that the creeps foreshadowed. That would be highlighted in blue, and it I had to count them, and I had to make sure that it was similar to Hereditary, The Exorcist, and Paranormal
Was
Activity.
Paranormal Activity? Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah, that's right. Um, it's what's really interesting about this film as well is that, of course, we're talking about a podcaster in this movie. This kind of started off first as kind of like the origins was like a radio play. Am I right? And if so, which element of the movie would have been, if the radio play were to go ahead, which element of a movie would have been a radio play? Was it be Evie's story, or would it be the story of the recordings of what's going on in the recordings? Was that going to be the bias, the the whole kind of crux of the radio play? I'm really curious about where the story kind of starts from
Yeah,
the origins there.
when they're in character, Evie and Justin, it would
Yeah.
just be that. They
hmm
would be in character. They would be listening to these audio files, and it was a very simple story where the sounds would start happening in Evie's house. So there would be points where where Evie would hear something and we would hear something as the listeners, but then Justin wouldn't hear it. And then you know, stuff like Gesso would say, "Look and lick all the blood off," which is what Evie discovered was hidden uh, in the reversal of Baba Black Sheep. And then at that point, the the audio would cut off, and then we would hear Evie say, "There should be more." And then Justin would say, "It just stopped by itself. I didn't do anything." And then Evie would say, "Okay, I think we should stop listening." And then it would play again. And then eventually, it would have worked. It just wouldn't have been there wouldn't have been uh, all that other good stuff like Catholic guilt and the story about caregiving your dying parent. That was all added afterwards, and I kind of rewrote a lot of the podcast radio play to to intertwine with the story of the next of Evie and her mom. So it was evolving. It kind of evolved over time.
The Matt's Movie Reviews YouTube channel is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you'll love. Could there be potential of possible, I don't know, one or two episodes of the radio play to be made as just a radio play? Because the Undertone podcast in the film is very popular, so there has to be episodes that lead up to the moments that are happening in the film. Could you see a
We tried to
potential
do that.
maybe? Yeah, yeah, really?
We were in talks with A24 about producing them with Nina and Adam DeMarco, but didn't end up happening. But it would have been pretty cool if we were able to get some real episodes out there in lead up to the release. But in the end, we just felt like it was too much work. Because it is a lot of work
Hmm.
to produce a produce a podcast.
Um, it's really interesting the role that technology can play in horror movies as these kind of conduits of evil. You know, you look at even movies like The Evil Dead, where he finds where Bruce Campbell's character finds like the reel to reels, and you hear the incantations that come from that. You have something like the Ring You movies, where they look at a VHS tape and like things go through that. And interestingly, we talk, you know, The Exorcist is a film that we both love, and I know it's a big influence on you as well. Back in 1973, the famous preacher Billy Graham said that that movie, The Exorcist, had the devil in every frame, and he discouraged people to watch that movie because he was afraid of the souls of the people who watched it. It's a fascinating thing, though, isn't it? Because the idea of having an evil presence or a spirit or a message fed through song or fed through a recording or fed through whatever or a movie or whatever. I think it's a really kind of interesting kind of thing to kind of play with as well. Did any of those kind of past occurrences with regards to, especially like when you have those children's nursery rhymes and you're playing backwards, kind of reminds me of what in the late 80s bands like Ozzy Osbourne and Judas Priest went through, and a lot of people were saying like they had messages in their songs and such. Did you ever look at stuff like that and kind of like take little things from those little elements, real life elements, and kind of have them influence the work in regards to having a recording uh have be kind of like a conduit for this demon to come into the lives of these people?
So another coincidence, I was just shared a TikTok video of a girl warning people not to watch the movie, which
This
I didn't
movie.
know. Undertone, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they said that it was, she said the devil was trying to infiltrate our minds. That's, you know, and that, uh, I that was the first time I watched that video, and now I have a chance to talk about it because you asked it to me. But the I mean, I I based my my intention for making this movie uh, almost entirely through my study of The Exorcist. Um, and The Exorcist, if someone says that that it's an evil movie, I would argue that it's a movie about faith, and it's about a priest that is who's lost his faith and is seeking it back, and eventually gains it through an act of sacrifice and
Yeah, 100%.
pure unselfishness.
Yep.
And to me, what that tells me is that the devil's in is in all of us, right? And so is the unselfish, uh, I guess you could call it. I guess you could call it divine nature. There, where we might find ourselves in moments where we would sacrifice our well-being for another person, even a stranger. Like it's I've seen it. It's happened many times. And what is it? What's that force that drives us to do that? And what even me, caregiving my parents, I couldn't leave them, right? And there's just something about there's something in our nature that is inherently good, but there's so many other things that are inherently evil.
Yep.
There isn't anything evil outside of humans. Like everything in nature is just nature. Once we start perceiving reality as a human, then we start categorizing as this is evil, this is good. But that's I think that's what this movie does, and that's what The Exorcist does. It 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 holds a mirror up to who you are, and what are the demons or shadows that are looking inside you that you may be repressing or denying or totally unaware of.
I go
So,
one step further and say that I think The Exorcist is actually the most pro-Catholic movie made of all time. And whenever I say that to people, they give me a little bit of a reaction. And I think the problem with the reputation of the film is that they think about the head spinning and the pea soup vomit and all that stuff. But like you said, the movie's about Father Karras. It's about the priest. It's about him and him finding his way back to God and at the end doing this sacrificial act for the love of another person. People forget that the word love actually means to wish the will of a good will upon the other person. And what he did is essentially an act of love. And that's so in a kind of strange way, it's almost kind of like a love story too, even though that is strange to say when it's talked about the Exorcist, but the ultimate sacrifice. I mean, it's funny we're talking about this just after Easter as well, is the what Christ did on the cross, and that's an ultimate act of love as well. And I think that permeates through a lot of these kind of films that deal with kind of Catholicism and such. Speaking of which,
do you think
your
Undertone
movie, go ahead.
a pro-Catholic movie?
I wrote down in my review that I think Undertone is the closest thing that we've seen to a spiritual successor to The Exorcist. I actually wrote that down in the
Oh,
movie.
great, great.
And one of the big reasons why I wrote that down is that I believe the movie actually deals with the theme of faith, but faith through different kind of context in regards to Evie is seems to me like kind of like a soul kind of like stuck in purgatory. She's stuck between the version of what she grew up was with and the version that she turned into. And now those two versions have to come to a collision during this moment in her life. And it's something that I can really actually relate to because much like yourself, my parents and myself, we were caretakers for my older sister. She had a car accident back in 1991. She was physically and mentally disabled. She unfortunately, God bless her, she passed away January last year. Just all of a sudden just passed away. But we were caretaker for her for 30, 40 years or so. I mean, for a very long time. And on one end, there's an emotional toll that comes with that, mental tolls that come with that as well. Because to look after someone who is so vulnerable, it's something that can just take it could leave an impact on you. But at the same time, I think doing something like that kind of enriches the soul in the way that you are sacrificing your time and your being and other things to help this person that needs your help, and they're your family as well. And I think what Evie's doing in the movie is the ultimate is just that. She's giving herself. I mean, there's many could be many movies where people might just put a person, that's on their deathbed on palliative care or whatever, but she takes her mum home. She takes care of her mum in the home. She feeds her. She takes to her. She changes her when needs to be changed. I've been through situations like that, and I think that the sacrifice and that she shows and what is something that's incredibly spiritually rich and something that has been embedded in her when she was younger. I know the Catholicism in her film can lead to a lot of things regarding guilt and such, but I think it gave her a rich character as well, a rich moral center as well in the movie. That's something that I took from it anyway. The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Amazon Prime Video. One of the best on-demand streaming services available, Amazon Prime Video features exclusive Amazon originals as well as popular movies and TV shows. Watch Amazon Prime Video anytime, anywhere.
No, I'm glad to hear. I'm also practicing Catholic, although I don't identify as a religious person,
Hmm.
but I mean religion is an institution, but the scripture and the truth is something entirely different. And ritual is important, and uh, prayer is important. So it was a I did I do I do identify as a Catholic, but I identify as other religions too. It's all I know is like we started off this conversation with some superstition, but that when you're open and you just look at facts, you do there are some you do notice some miraculous things in the mundane. My mom died on a Good Friday,
Hmm.
and I remember I was many years ago. I was shot by a stray bullet because I was in a nightclub, and I remember being in the nightclub feeling guilty drinking and partying on a Good Friday. And I was hitting the leg. The other guy beside me got hit multiple times in the torso. Anyway,
Wow.
I always felt like something saved me from getting hit in the body. I was standing right beside the guy, and I always thought it was, my grandfather, like some kind of guardian angel. But then when my mom died on a Good Friday, I all of a sudden started rethinking time and how we perceive time linearly. But on the other side, uh, past, present, future might be just one thing. And I do think it was my mom that saved me, right? And I do think that right now there's in the past 100 years we focus on what can be measured in the material world.
Hmm.
We can't measure consciousness. We can't measure emotions. And there's something making this movie to I think it was my statement uh, about the the what's outside of what our five senses can perceive. and whether that thing is in nature good or evil. And it has to be both. There's there there can't be light without darkness, right?
Yeah.
And the name Lucifer, uh, if you trace back far enough at its roots, it means light bringer.
Mm.
And the snake on the tree in the book of Genesis, the snake, the tree wasn't the tree of sin, it was the tree of knowledge.
Yep.
So, it's there's just a bunch of uh there's I personally just think that there's there's only two forces in this world that drive everything, and that's love and fear. And those are two opposite poles. So when you watch a movie like Exorcist or Undertone, you're really exploring uh, what what those two things mean, love and fear. And I think the deeper you explore, the more it can either scare you or the more it can make you aware of love. So
I
it's
got um my final questions here, and it has to do with Evie as a character. First off, her first name, Evie. I was looking up the meaning of the name. It pretty much means like giver of life or such. And I find it to be very interesting where on one context you have Evie, where her name being giver of life and motherhood in a lot of different ways is something that's very paramount in the film, even to the point where a lot of times the images of even the Virgin Mary was is like shown throughout the film through iconography and such in the relationship between Evie and her mum and other things as well. But then on the other hand, you have a demonic character, which is the opposite of that. She's like kind of like the destructor of kind of like of life and motherhood as well. Was naming the character Evie an intentional thing to put in opposite position of the demon character within the movie?
it's a funny thing. It's we're talking about coincidences and like forces driving us uh outside of ourselves. And you're right. I mean, Evie was I changed the name from Sammy, which is my niece's name. Uh, I wanted to change it because the movie got so dark. I just didn't want my niece's name attached to this character. And
Right.
then I just thought of Evie, which was the first thing that came to my mind. And then all of a sudden, I did also look into the meaning of Evie. And then when A24 bought the film, a bunch of people auditioned, and I chose Adam DeMarco, and so did A24. And then now all of a sudden I'm doing readings with Adam and Evie. And I was just thinking there's a lot I don't know. There's a lot I don't know, and there's a lot driving this film, and it's really hard to take credit for anything at this point.
My silly question of the day is the surname Babic. I myself am a Pejkovic, so my background's Croatian, Croatian households, very Catholic and such. And I'm seeing here we have a Croatian household with iconography everywhere, like I grew up with, and the surname is Babic. Um, what do you say? Is this a Croatian character that we're dealing with?
It's a Serbian character. We got it's Nina Kiri Serbian, so
Okay.
we named her Babbage when we casted her. Before it was just Evie, and but there is a coincidence there because we the first four letters of Babbage is baby, so it's kind of
Ah,
like,
right.
yeah,
Very cool.
looks like we got to wrap up.
Yes, so for everyone out there, April 9, Australian cinemas, Undertone. I recommend everyone watch this film and watch it in the cinemas if you can, because it is an experience you need to have in the cinemas. And look, Ian, I thank you so very much for your time. Thank you for your conversation and being so open as well. Congratulations to you. Hopefully, we can talk again in the future when it comes to future projects, because I think this movie has really set you up to have a wonderful career. And I just want to congratulate you for that and wish you the best of luck as well.
Thank you. Keep in touch. Happy Easter.
You too. Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content.